All right, guys, doing something a little bit different today. I'm shooting with my girlfriend's camera with one light, and it's pretty dark outside, so I have no help from the sun. So if this looks pretty clear, let me know, please, at least one person. That will help because then I can just use this as my setup. So let's get into it. Let's begin because it has been declared that we are going to go full-fledged in this direction, right? I spoke to my girlfriend, the whole idea 2020, and laid it out, and she's with it to back me up with, this entire thing that I'm getting into, creating a digital course for how to sell SEO. So this shouldn't be a surprise to any of you, as I've been talking about it for some time. So what I want to do today, though, is kind of just introduce that as well as answer some of you guys' questions, which I'm going to be doing over the next week or so. I'm going to be catching up with the questions that some of you have been asking me, which, I don't know, it just gets lost because I look at it and then I don't answer right away, then I forget about it, right? So I need to stop doing that. From now on, when I look at the bell, I will be ready to answer questions. Anyways, so having that said, with that intro, guys, this question is coming from Chad Leonard, and he asked, what work do you assign to your virtual assistants? Okay, so this could be a pretty packed question, so I'm going to do my best to give you the overview of what kind of task I have them do, and I took some notes here so you guys can more fully understand that how I'm picking what to give them. So this is how it goes. Client comes on board, right? As soon as they come on board, my girlfriend does the onboarding, right? She takes like all the information, like where do they serve, stuff like that, any special offers they provide, what types of roofing they do, all kinds of stuff like that. And she also gets like a feel of like, where their mind's at with certain things, like, if they have any special instructions or something like that, whatever, right? She gets the logins for everything, boom, creates an email, and then she pings the team, right? When that happens, two of my VAs can get the work started, right? So one of them does all like initial type activities. That includes anything from like setting up tracking, like so Google Analytics, Search Console, taking initial screenshots of the maps, and using like local Falcon. Basically, overall, getting a snapshot of where their business is at, snapshots of the traffic on SEMrush, Ahrefs, backlink portfolio, exporting that, and basically saving all that stuff, right? And what this helps us do is not only know like where we're starting from, but also a lot of times in the first month there's like quick wins that take place for a client, right? It can vary from things to things, but one of the extreme examples I can give is that sometimes you get a client, and let's say they're a roofer, right? Their GMB category is like set as contractor. If you change that as soon as you do, instantly, right, within like as soon as you do it within a couple hours, or maybe even instantly, a lot of times they're gonna jump in rankings like by a lot, right? Because you just switch their whole category. Now, before, if I saw something like that, I would just go and like, oh my god, these guys don't, their category is set as contractor. Let me just switch it, and boom, that'll be it. But now we take that initial screenshot of everything right then and there, right? So even if that action was to be taken like the next week, we would have a really great report right from the very beginning, right? So that's something I can like let them know or whatnot, literally in the first month. So that's just an example of something, like I said, pretty extreme. That doesn't happen all the time, but all kinds of stuff that can happen, which allows you to show progress in the initial stages of the campaign, which is very important, right? They just signed up with you. You need them to feel like they made the right choice and not feel any kind of buyer's remorse, etc. So they go through and take that kind of initial report that allows us to do things like that. All right. Now, while that's happening, our other VA, who's not really a VA, he's like more like a SEO, you could say. He does like technical stuff, right? So he fixes he just checks if there's any like excessive 404 errors in the page, any kind of like weird redirects going on, right? Like simple things, SSL and stuff like that. But it's like tech. Our tech side is not as heavy as I would like it to be. Like, we went that direction for some time, and I had to backtrack because I let somebody go who was doing it before. and overall it's still not where I want it to be, but we just make sure the main things are taken care of in one shot so that nothing is like holding us back. That's like blaringly red, like red flags that are holding us back from getting the types of ranks we want to get, right? So we just like take care of the main things, not to worry about all kinds of like extra stuff. Like I see a lot of people do like they go through every single page of the site and make sure it has descriptions, alt text, and all stuff. We don't really worry about it too much. We just stick to the main stuff that we know works, and that's where our tech ends, at least for now, right? So that's like the step that happens simultaneously. And these two things I just talked about, we have a thing that's called a base combo, right? Because every time a client comes, I don't want to go and assign the VAs individually every single task every single time. That's a lot of thinking, right? Especially if you have like a bunch of clients that come at the same time, you're gonna be like kind of all over the place. So you have some combinations, right? So when you say like, we have some tasks that are picked, right? Like it's like all in Trello, line by line, month to month. And then if I say like, hey, start the base combo for this client, they automatically know like everything I just talked about, those two parts of the campaign have to be done. And this takes 2 days. So 2 full days for 2 VAs, okay? And that's it. So within like 2 days it's gonna be done. And generally if we're gonna be checking it, I check at the end of the month when I'm looking at on page, right? So that brings the next point of what not to do with the VAs, right? We tried to automate on page for some time, and I realized in the end that some things are not like, it doesn't have to be done by a team member, because if it's pretty simple but needs a lot of knowledge, like you need to know a lot but it takes little time, sometimes you should just do it yourself. We tried for a while to teach the VAs on page. I tried for a while to get somebody on the team to do on page, and it didn't really work out. In the end, I was just like, all right, this thing takes like 2 hours of my time. It's generally only one time in the whole campaign. Why am I overthinking it? So on page is one thing exclusively that I don't outsource, and I'm not even planning to outsource it, right? So that's one thing. I just want to give you an example of what not to like have your VAs do. But other than that, most of the campaign is done by the VAs, right? Like GMB optimization, all that kind of stuff. I mean, back in the day, like last year, we even had them do citations, right? Which I realized after a while that was just too much of a headache to go and like monitor and stuff like that. You don't want to go too far with it. So we just use services for the citations and things like that you can just order, press release and whatnot. But anything with like optimization, content, pictures, all of that kind of stuff, we have processes for it. And that's where the VAs lie. And then only about 10% of the campaign that's like things like on page, or let's say something's going on that like is unseen, that is a problem. Like we did everything and it's still not like where it's supposed to be, and it's been like 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, whatever. Then I would get in, or maybe I would ask a friend, or like we'd take a closer look at it. And that's generally how I go about it right now. All right. So yeah, I mean, hope that helps. I know it's kind of like an overview. I don't know if you were asking for like particularly what your VA1 does, VA2 does, and stuff like that, because that can really differ from business to business completely, depending on what your offer is, what you really do. But generally, to be honest, I do feel like overall, in my experience in the industry, I do feel like a lot of times that people underestimate how much a VA can do. A good person, a solid person that you hired properly from the Philippines is able to do like pretty much 90% of the agency, right? Like you can teach them. My first VA is good enough right now that they just hired. Like they hired the whole content writer, like from beginning to end. In the very end, I just looked at the sample of the final work that they said is the final indication, which they hired the person through, because they went through a lot of applicants. But other than that, just to give you an idea of how good they are, if you have processes for everything, they're gonna learn. And a solid person who's hungry and willing to learn over the course of a year can become like very exceptional, right? Like my first VA is worth a lot to me now, and that's just over time, right? That's another thing. So if you get somebody who's like good, and you don't really have to worry about much of their stuff, as long as you have process for it. I mean, he orders the links, like, you know, is able to do all the stuff. I maybe just look at anchor text before it goes out, but that's only one time again, right? Like they choose everything. They choose all the titles and everything for all the guest posts, PBNs that are going to be built. And then I just look over it once just to make sure that that final analysis is there based on, you know, the competition, that I can look in the Ahrefs and what kind of like anchor text they chose. Could I be a little bit, you know, aggressive, or maybe like I should tone down it a bit, and I just change it right on the sheet, and then boom, done. And that gets executed through 12 months. So they make it right in the beginning for the next 12 months. Basically the order form. Get it? Like I'm just talking about the links here. So that's pretty much it, you know? I mean, we don't do many services, right? These are the main things we do. Like the only thing I didn't mention, I think, is blogs, but that is overall what is encompassing for our strategy to maps. And like I said in a video not too long ago, we actually removed a lot of like extra garbage that I had that was just like overcomplicating the whole system. So by removing that stuff, it's just like a fresh combination of things that actually move the needle, and you know, just laid out in Trello very systematically, and they just execute on it, right? All right, guys. So once again, man, Chad, thanks for your question. Hope that helped. And you know, if you have anything else, just go down and answer below. All right, guys. Thanks for watching the video. Chad, if you have any more questions, let me know. Like I said, this video is a bit more of an overview. I just wanted to give you an idea of what things I couldn't outsource. And it's crazy when I say it just like this, because it took me months to be able to figure this out. Like literally like 4 or 5 months that I was suffering continuously trying to outsource on page, and it didn't work. If I had somebody who told me like, hey, look, I tried that for a long time. It takes like 2 hours every time, one time when the client comes. Why don't you just schedule it out, like doing one client a week, and you'll barely feel it, right? Since you know what to do. If somebody had told me that and like, you know, explained it to me like that, I wouldn't have even gone into trying to do that. So I did want to mention that because some things you don't want to outsource, at least in the beginning stage, right? If you're scaling massively, like getting a couple clients a week and it's just flowing in, then obviously you want to be at a point where, you know, even those higher level tasks, you want to get somebody in place to do. But generally speaking, if something is very high level and takes very little time and you know how to do it, it's not a bad thing for you to just do it, such as on page, right? So I wanted to get that out. And the other side, I wanted to kind of like give you an idea of the type of things they are able to do, right? Like basically 90% of the agency, right? So I just wanted to give you that, you know, duality of what you can accomplish. And generally it's a lot more than most people think, right? So hope that helps. To end this video, want to introduce you guys to, well, actually I already introduced in the beginning of the video, want to invite you guys to go down below and for the first time, click a link in the description on my video. That feels very strange to say because I've been hearing it for years and I've never said it on a video. But yeah, guys, so go down below and click the link. It's going to take you to an inner page of the website. I literally just put that thing up today, so it looks like absolute garbage. Please don't mind it. That page is going to take you to a page where just scroll down and it'll have, all it has is like an email section, right? So put in your email. You'll be, you know, once you submit that email, it'll take you to a thank you page where there's a video, and that video is going to be outlining what is going to be covered in the course. So please watch it thoroughly. It's not a normal course. It's not like a Kajabi thing where you're just going to get a link. It's something that it's going to be very interactive. I'm going to be building it live with you guys. So just watch the whole thing so you know exactly how everything's going down. And then if everything sounds good and you're good and you know you're ready to basically commit to it, send me an email, which will be provided in the in that landing page, and we'll go on from there. All right? Thanks for watching the video. I'll see you guys on the other side.